Welcome to another episode of Shots from the Winchester podcast, where we explore leadership topics from a variety of perspectives. This podcast is brought to you by Greencastle Consulting, your nation's premier strategy execution firm. Welcome to another episode. We have Matt, we have Mike, and we have Alicia here today, and we're going to get into a conversation about something that we're drawing comparisons between strategy execution and elite athletic teams. And you guys have been on some athletic teams, some D1 teams, so we want to get to know a little bit about what those teams were, what you guys did, and how that may relate to how we operate, especially here at Greencastle, with strategy execution and any applications from that to business. And I'm going to draw this out too, because Matt, you're co-hosting with me today. So Matt, you drew up a bunch of questions. You want to jump into what your whole objective here is?
Yes, yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Happy to co-host and be here with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So basic insight is, I'm doing a presentation for Greencastle, doing a lunch and learn. Like you said, strategy execution at elite athletic teams. We found two fellow Greencastle consultants that were a part of elite athletic teams. So just trying to ask them some questions based off of their experience to draw some insights from that.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Let's just jump in real quick. Mike, what team were you a part of?
Yeah, well, thanks, guys, for having me. Honored to be here. So I was recruited out of high school to play football at Naval Academy.
Nice.
So I was class of 2014. Played football for the 4 years. And just, like you said, absolute elite organization to be part of.
Yeah.
I see myself as a normal, just hard-nosed dude from Philly that was part of an elite organization. So
That's cool. That's cool.
And, on top of that, not just a college sports team, but what some of the alumni have gone on to do in their military careers. It's just an absolute humbling thing to be part of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say so. And Alicia?
Hi, thanks for having me. Not quite the same path as him. I was recruited in high school to initially play for USA Volleyball. So I played in the youth I was on a youth traveling gold team, and I played up for most of my years. I think I was playing 18s by the time I was 16.
Wow.
So, and then I was recruited to play first for a D3 school, and I was a varsity starter there, but they dropped my major, so I had to leave.
Oh, wow.
So I actually got recruited to play for the NERSA athletic team at Iowa State. Played volleyball. I wasn't varsity, but it was still a traveling team. We went all over the country. We wore Iowa State uniforms and stuff like that.
Wow.
And after that, I went on to play in the USAV adult leagues, and we won I think we got fifth in the gold bracket once, and we won the bronze bracket once.
Nice. Wow, that's really cool. Definitely playing at a high level. And that was
trying to.
Yeah, doing our best.
That's right.
well, let's jump in with some questions. I'll let Matt start off.
Yeah. So maybe, Mike, I could ask you first.
Yeah.
So how did your team translate the coach's strategy from, say, the whiteboard to actual in-game execution, say, especially like under pressure?
Yeah, so a lot of people who aren't involved in football don't understand how much goes into preparing for a game.
Mm-hmm.
So during the season, Monday you're looking at install, kind of getting the game plan for that week. Usually it's whiteboard position meetings.
Game tape.
Yep, and then we have game films multiple times a day, team meetings. If you're not comfortable with something, you're meeting with your fellow position guys, and you're going through things. So it's a lot of like academic studying to get everything down. And it's things that people don't realize, right? If you're breaking down formations and personnel and tendencies, and there's a lot of data, right? So I think doing all that work during the week allows you, when it's game time, to flip that switch, and you're so prepared that you're just reacting. You're playing football at that point.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, and like you can relate, like if if you're in a game and you're thinking too much, oh, what did coach say? Like you're kind of beat already.
You're lost already.
You're too much in your head.
Yeah. So I would say like a huge thing there is that preparation and the reps. So bringing that strategy from the coach down to actual execution.
No,
Nice.
that's awesome. Just repetition.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like you said, muscle memory, which is that's key, especially when you're in a unit of people, whether it's Army, military, sports, anything like that. When you're in a unit, you got to know what everybody else is thinking, how everyone else is moving, everything, in order to execute your position as best as possible, so that everybody else gets, because like the running back, you got to block for that guy.
It's almost more granular than that, though, because you're not thinking about what is he thinking.
Yeah.
You're seeing him shift a little bit to the left, and you're not even actively thinking about it. You're like, he moves left, I move left.
Yeah.
In volleyball, it's more we're spread out, and we always called it a rubber band. So like if I was a middle blocker, so if my one blocker takes just a half step out, like I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just moving a half step farther.
Yeah.
It's not something, like I said, it's purely muscle memory and reaction, like
yeah.
he said. You're not thinking about it that much because you'll be way too in your head and you'll be out of the game, because then that person who took a half shift to the left has already beat you.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and the other thing we stress is playing while we're uncomfortable in order to like still react the way you're supposed to. Which was horrible news because they beat us down when we're exhausted and tired. That's when it's like, all right, let's start practicing. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And so, so my time in Navy, I by no means was a starter, a stud. It was a grind the whole time. There was a lot of scout team, a lot of, 2s and 3s, and you have a rough week and you're not on the list. And I never liked to present that I, was the guy on the field every Saturday, but, definitely.
You won't find game tape of me.
Don't look at the stats, but I was there every week.
Well, I can jump into the second question. We can
I actually didn't answer the first question.
Oh, you didn't? I'm so sorry. Go for it. Sorry.
In addition to everything else that he said, I would say that one of the things that my coaches were really good at was visualization, understanding what correct looks like, and then understanding what all of the the ways that it can go wrong, and then how to react to that. And they were really, really good at. Football's fast, volleyball's fast too, and breaking it down. And we would do this thing where we would toss the ball. I would toss the ball to the setter, and the setter would toss the ball to the outside hitter, and he would just slow everything down to a snail's pace, so that he can explain each and every step, and so that we could visualize what successful execution looked like, so we could visualize what a successful adjustment looked like. Without having to do it on the fly while the ball is flying at you in a tempo 1.
So reacting in the most efficient manner possible. So
right. It might take us all afternoon to get through this one play, but at the end of the day, we knew what successful execution of this looked like. We knew what, if the middle hitter just happened to slice it too much, they're going to shift. I know how to react to that. And then the other thing that they always had us do, it was kind of like meditation in a way, but it was visual, like literally in your brain, picturing yourself doing it right. Just over and over and over again, picturing yourself doing it right. I think it was really good for our confidence, just to be able to, if you're always picturing yourself doing it wrong, you're going to do it wrong.
Right. So
he planted that seed in our head of us seeing ourselves doing it right.
Yeah, that pregame meditation is so important.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to go up there. I'm going to have my approach is going to be perfect. I'm going to smash the ball right between the blockers. Just those little things where you're like, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, I always visualized a pick 6, and then it just didn't.
It didn't happen every time.
Every time pregame it happened.
Oh, that's great. That's a great answer. It's like sometimes I love watching the Olympics and stuff like that. And back when Michael Phelps was out there, he'd have his headphones on. He's just totally in the zone, just mean mugging everyone. And he's just ready and focused. He knows what he wants to do. He knows how he has to act.
Finding a zone.
Exactly, and getting in that zone. And I think that's a great comparison, too, with how we operate in business, taking that transition from what you guys were doing versus what we're doing here as consultants, too, because that all works out in the same way. I'll direct this question to Alicia. What were the most effective habits or systems that your team had that helped you stay aligned and perform at a consistently high level?
Like he said, it's regimented.
Yeah.
Like you're when you're in class, when you're in practice, when you're at PT, when you're at weightlifting and strength and conditioning, when you are at everything is regimented. It is. I imagine it's even more regimented in Navy than it was at State. But like so, there's no. We're all doing everything as a team, and we had the mindset of like. We work as a team, we play as a team, we succeed as a team. We promoted shared responsibility between us and accountability because there was the idea that no one person was going to take down the whole team. If a play broke, it was a series of events. It wasn't just like you failed. So we had that, and I think all of us being coachable and having learning mindsets, it takes the pressure off to feel like you're the only one that made the mistake. So you can kind of get past it and move forward much easier because you are doing it together as a team, and
so act as a team, move as a team,
right? Succeed as a team, play as a team, fail as a team.
Yeah, so it's a symbiotic relationship with everyone and making sure that you're keyed into what everyone else is doing, almost like mind reading without actually mind reading, just that the fact that you all have the same idea and the same movement in mind, it's almost like you are reading each other's minds in that way.
Yeah, and I think that starts back at camp, where preseason absolutely sucks.
3 days oh my God, 3 hours, 3 days for 14 days. Yeah,
and I think that's when you're going through, you look up teamwork, right? It's like storming form.
Yeah, performing.
So you go through all that together, and I think when the season rolls around,
oh my gosh,
that's when
we got through that in camp, didn't we?
Yeah, we got through that
all
together.
The fights
and
were in camp.
A lot of schools, it's kind of the team, like us against the world, right? Like I know at the academy, there's a lot of negative thoughts about the varsity athletes, and we had to look out for each other at school and go through all the military stuff, So like that mentality of like we look out for each other.
And we care about each other as people.
We care. We went through some hell together. We're living together.
A lot of camaraderie.
Yep. So at that point, I think that's when you kind of start vibing where I know the guy next to me, if he's gives me some sort of look or I know kind of what he's thinking and why I'm doing something during the play because I know what his assignment is. And, so to piggyback on what you were saying, I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. Wow, that's really good.
And like I said, knowing them as a person too. Like I spend every day with this person, and they might tell me like I just broke up with my boyfriend. Like now I know that, so I know that like there might be some slack to pick up because emotions definitely play in at that point, and so like being able to adjust or being able to notice those tiny little things that she's doing just a little bit different because she might be a little bit down or out of energy. Yeah. Or maybe I knew somebody was having a massive test today and they're stressed and tired, but now we have to perform. Like those caring for each other as people and understanding that like sometimes you just can't come with your A game. Yeah. And I think it helps people feel like psychological security that like, this being off this one time isn't going to cost me my scholarship, that kind of stuff. Right. So I think those kinds of habits and systems, which I've noticed here at Greencastle that I love about this place, that carries through. It's something I'm familiar with and that I enjoy.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
And I can direct this to you, Alicia. Or, I'll go to Mike because I think we asked Alicia the last one.
Alternate.
So I'll direct this to you, Mike. So when a game plan wasn't working, what was your team's approach to adjusting on the fly? And how did, leadership from players or coaches influence that?
Yeah. Right away I think about the leadership and communication. So specifically talking football, right? And it can relate to everything. The leadership structure is huge, so head coach to the other assistants, but mainly you have the team captains. The way we worked was offense, defensive captain, and then position leaders. So I would say game time, that communication flow is so important. And then we're truly looking at those leaders to set that example to, a lot of times coaches will say something as players, you're like, here's what I really care about. Well, you get the buy-in from those senior leaders of the team, the captain. If you really understand that why, I think that's a huge part to that adapting on the fly.
Yeah.
So to sum up a long answer, I think the leadership is very important and the communication flow to the players.
So when something goes wrong, you look to your leaders to, make an educated decision on what's the best path forward, something like that.
Something goes wrong, there's guys that have to step up and make some sort of big play to get that momentum spinning.
And they got to probably make that quick too. They probably have to be very decisive. Like you don't have time to. Let me deliberate.
Maybe it's not a monster standout play.
That's it.
Maybe it's not a huge play, but a big hit or something that like, all right, let's do this. When things aren't going well.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Volleyball's a little different. We were like done every 9 seconds and we get to start over. So I think the longest rally ever was like a minute and a half, and it was exhausting to watch. Like they took a time. Both teams took a time out, and they out like consecutively to rest. Like we don't do that.
Yeah.
I think the big thing for us was even one step back from that, where we were trained to expect it. We were expected to understand that nothing like. Rarely does it go 100% according to plan, because the entire other side of the net is a variable.
Yeah.
So if one person does, she doesn't hit the cross, she somehow hits the line through the blocker, like that, the middle back or whoever's covering the line is going to have to like get their butt over there.
Yeah.
So like there was never an expectation that it'll go perfectly. When it does, like that's great, we nailed it. But like having our mental mindset that it's not going to go according to plan, you are going to have to adjust things. You could tip it off the top of her fingers, it could go sailing. You got to go get it. It's a touch.
Yeah.
So like that, and then as far as the leadership, I noticed they actively stopped, like in timeouts and stuff like that, to assess. Like obviously they're watching the whole time. They got the people up there chatting at them, but like just to stop and like assess. Are you tired? Are you hurt? Like what is happening like that could be causing this?
Yeah.
And if there's nothing like that, then it's like, okay, then we just need to do it again, or we need to adjust, blocker, move over, or change the way that you're holding your hands to direct it. So that kind of stuff.
And that's where that trust and that bond comes in
right.
that you've formed prior to the season.
Yep.
Right?
Stop, assess, and then respond, as opposed to like, just, okay, let's just change the whole thing.
Yeah.
That might not be necessary.
Right.
And that's maybe where it could apply to like the business world.
Yeah.
If you don't trust the team that you're on, how can you expect to be a high performing team or a high performing company?
Exactly.
You have to trust your team leader, and it goes from the top down. Like I trust our CEO, Joe Crandall.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have that trust in him, I feel like that would, inhibit the company.
I feel like he's really good at that. Like just even with fires all around him, like stop, assess, and then respond. Like calmly move through it, as opposed to just like hands in the air running around on fire.
Yeah.
That's we talk about this on the show, emotional intelligence. Understanding the room, understanding the people in the room, and understanding what their capabilities are, and making sure that you're executing properly and the right person is in the right seat. So if you're out there running those, like you talked about, variables, that variable on the other side of the net is, who knows? Like you could be playing a team that is like insane. Like they're awesome at spiking the ball or doing whatever they're doing, but like you got to figure out how to balance your team to match that. Can you share a moment that when individual talent had to take a back seat to team strategy, and how that was handled? Either of you guys can jump on that one.
I think the one that came to mind when I was thinking about this question was we were in the gold bracket tournament and we were moving up, and there was just one blocker. She was just on fire. She was shutting me down. Like, she didn't even need help. She was just shutting me down. So we stopped. We assessed. We realized I'm just not going to hit around this girl. So we're going to wear her out. And so the setter, I faked it. I faked approaches. I was really loud. I was running slides that I knew I wasn't going to get a set for. And she would set all the way out to the outside. Then she'd set to the back. And then she'd set to the outside, set to the back. We had this girl running the net the entire time. And then when she was out of position or we saw her falter or trip, that's when I went in and smashed the one because she wasn't there.
Got her wheezing.
But I had to step back. She was shutting me down. She was just a roof that I couldn't get around. And you have to do that, because you're not an individual. And if you're the person opposing you in that, thankfully they don't hit us. That would be a bad thing. But you just have to step back and give that to somebody else. There were several, I remember in that game while we were wearing her down, our outside hitter was crushing it. And I fully expect the setter to continue to feed the ball to the girl who's getting us points.
Right.
So, yeah, it happens all the time. Sometimes I remember there was an outside hitter that just had 9 feet of hops. Doesn't matter what I do, she's going to literally hit over me.
Jeez.
And I had a 2-foot vertical at the time.
Yeah.
And she was just hitting over me, not around me,
Wow.
over me. And so you have to step back, adjust your hands so that you can at least slow it down.
Right.
But, then the back is going to have to adjust, like we talked about earlier, because the ball's probably going to go sailing into the backcourt.
Yeah.
So it's all about just understanding that you have 6 individual contributors that are all powerful, and if we use them correctly, we can get around an individual who's being shut down.
Because you're not alone out there.
You're not alone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think back on at Navy, there's about 160 guys on the football team. We travel 70 something, so the majority is within the scout practice squad. A lot of my time there that's what I was doing. And it's not an easy job, right? Because everyone's getting recruited. You're the best in your county, the best in your state at the position. You're recruited. You go in with high hopes. You realize very quickly that, it's a whole different ball game that you're involved in. And there is a time where the team needs you to step up in the position that you're in, right? So, a lot of the times I'm learning the opposing team's defense in order to play my hardest and give our starting offense the best look that I possibly can.
Yeah.
Which, when it comes down to it, it's a tough deal, The wind's out of your sails a little bit. You're like, man, this is brutal. I'm out here getting beat up, and but I think that back to your question, at that point you realize that this team I'm on is much bigger than myself. I'm not gonna cry that I'm not getting enough looks, or I got a job to do right now, and those bonds that I made with those guys, I'm not going to abandon them. I'm going to do this job the best that I can.
Yeah.
And then it makes those Saturday wins sweet, right? Because you all kind of did your job.
And sometimes I guess that is you kind of minimize yourself in that situation. Like you just said, when you had to recognize and reassess the situation, you minimize yourself for the team's effort.
Oh, yeah.
So that you can make sure that everyone's getting the job done so that we can win.
Yeah.
So it's not always I always talk about how the running back gets all this props for getting into the end zone and stuff, and but let's talk about the people that blocked.
Oh, yeah.
To make that person get there,
The linemen in the trenches, they don't get enough credit.
Not enough credit,
never.
yeah. But in the same vein here for blockers and things like that, just not having them there and not being cohesive in your objectives can completely destroy a team. Whether we're talking about sports, whether we're talking about military, whether we're talking about business, that can devastate a team for not having those cohesive like conversations ahead of time, not having that hard practice, and being on the line when you need to be against whoever that opponent is,
Yeah.
And I always enjoyed too, just celebrating each other's wins. Like it's okay, like once it's over, to be like, yeah, she passed nails all night long.
Yeah.
Like, and it's okay to recognize that without being like, okay, but I blocked, and that's why I directed the ball to her. Like, but like it's like not, it's okay. It's because she passed nails all night. That should be celebrated.
Right, yeah.
It's like I took on that monster fullback so the linebacker could make the tackle,
Yeah.
But the linebacker got the credit.
Exactly.
But that's what it's all about.
Don't forget about the big boys up front.
Right, yeah.
It happens the other way too. Like I can't smash the ball and I can't hit the 10-foot line without a good setter. But all they see is the ball just ricocheting off the floor. But I couldn't have done it without her.
Yeah.
So I think it's all about just like I said earlier, playing as a team, winning as a team.
Yeah. Okay, that's great.
So I'll direct this to both of you guys, if one of you guys want to jump on it. So what lessons from being on an elite athletic team do you apply now when working with others, whether in business, leadership, or just everyday life? Like what have you learned, from being on an elite athletic team that you still apply to your lives today, whether that's work or personal?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I find myself being team oriented, and I think that's because of my experience on a college football team. You're not going to do anything by yourself in life, business. So relying on people, using their strengths and being there for other people, building that trust, I think is very important. The other major thing I think about is attention to detail on the very small things.
Yeah.
So like you said, our experience at college playing on a sport, it's very regimented. We were pre-game meal, we had to be a certain amount of minutes early, like some ridiculous amount of minutes. I forget.
Yeah, the Army.
If you weren't, everyone's staring at you. Just routine, very specific things, and just doing the little things right.
Yeah.
I think can translate over tremendously.
That feeling of walking up to formation like 2 minutes late.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Everybody's like, that's
Everybody's
the exact same
looking
coming up. To
yeah.
the
I did
pregame
that in
meal.
college.
Yeah.
And it was tough to hide that I was the big football player in my company. It's not a good look.
Not a good look, bro.
That's a cool insight though, because I think you can kind of bring it back to Greencastle or other businesses as well.
Yeah.
Greencastle puts people in positions based off of their strengths. Like you're not going to put a data and analytics person in a project management role, or you try and always put someone that is strong at something in a position that they would succeed in.
Oh yeah, know your people.
Yeah,
It's huge.
Yeah.
I would say that the thing that I learned was just accepting accountability, accepting responsibility for an error that you made, and then moving on, because that the rest of the team isn't going to completely fail you for that.
Yeah.
And just the whole idea of win together, lose together, play together. I actually put that into my parenting. I tell that to my kids all the time at home. Like, none of this works without your cooperation, without your responsibility and being accountable for the things that are your responsibility to do.
That's smart.
It'll all fall apart if one of us decides we don't want to play anymore.
Get them in there early. Get them early with that.
I try to have formation with my kids.
I try all the time.
Friendly in the last position.
That's fun.
I think they'd look at me sideways.
Yeah, that's right.
That's great, yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show. Thank you for this conversation. This is awesome. I think there's a lot that our audience could take away from this as well, especially anyone out there that's a leader, a manager, anything like that, and you're working with a team of people, whether it's sports, whether it's parenting, whether it's business, any of this stuff, all this applies. to how you work your life daily, how you work as a team, how you work in a business, all that stuff. So thank you guys so much for your backgrounds and your information and everything like that. Thank you, Matt, for bringing the subject matter to the podcast as well, because this is great stuff. Our audience loves stuff like this. So
yeah, thanks for having us. Honored to be here.
Thank you so much for having me on. And I think there's a lot of great stuff to talk about.
Absolutely. Now, guys, leave a comment down in the comment section below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're not watching this on YouTube and you're just listening to this, hope you enjoyed the conversation. Check us out on our social media. We're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, a whole bunch of other things.
All the places.
We're there. So go ahead and check that out. Leave a comment, talk to us, let us know what other kind of content you want to hear from us, and we'll talk to you later.
See ya.